this episode, I talk with Ben Scrivens, the president of Fright-Rags. We talk about the origins of Fright-Rags, horror movies, and more. I had a killer time talking with Ben. I hope you enjoy this episode. After you're done with this episode, make sure you check out my fellow horsemen of the podcast Apocalypse, Everything Went Black podcast, Into Necrosphere, the Necromaniacs podcast, Break the Apocalypse, Iblis Manifestations, and the Soul Knocks podcast. All right, Ben, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brandon. I appreciate it.
Also, thanks to Alex, our mutual friend here that hooked us up. So that was really awesome. Alex, pretty fucking awesome dude. So
yeah, Alex is a great guy. I've known him for quite a long time now. He's a great dude.
Yeah, I think I've known him for maybe 2 or 3 years now. I met him when I was doing the Horrorwolf 666 website and like doing reviews and everything like that. And me and him crossed paths with like a Broke Horror fan and stuff like that. So really solid dude, really awesome, and hell of a motivator. And like the stuff he does is fucking killer. So.
Oh, I know. I've been loving the VHS releases and everything, and he's doing a lot of great stuff.
Yeah, I got a really killer Mandy collection VHS wise because of Broke Horror and Witter Entertainment. Like I got some really awesome like big clamp box versions of Mandy. We got like three different versions.
Oh my God.
I'm a bit crazy about that movie. So
that's wild.
Yeah, and also another underrated Nick Cage movie, Willy's Wonderland. I got like a big ass version of that, like the big box version that I had to like fight for because it sold out in like 10 minutes.
Wow. Yeah, I haven't seen that yet. I can't wait. I've been meaning to watch it, and it's on my watch list, but just haven't seen it yet.
It's really good, and I think when it came out, it came out in the middle of the pandemic, if I'm not mistaken. So a lot of people kind of ignored it and watched Tiger King instead.
Yeah, that's right.
So they're kind of missing out. It's really cool. I don't think Nick Cage says one word in the whole movie. It's all like him doing this crazy physical stuff, and it works really well.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I definitely got to check it out. I loved Mandy and Color Out of Space. Color Out of Space was the last movie I saw in the theater before COVID, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, that makes one hell of a double feature too. Like Mandy's my favorite film as of right now, and it's been that way since it came out. It kind of dethroned like The Exorcist and American Werewolf in London for me, which is a hard thing to do.
Wow, yeah, it's a bold statement.
Yeah. I'm fucking Mandy is like everything, and Color Out of Space is really fucking awesome too, and they have like a similar color palette to it, so it'd be like a good double feature.
That's true.
So yeah, man. I just saw that you have the new crow design out for Fright-Rags, so that's really fucking cool.
Thanks. Yeah, it's our second or third collection that we've done for the crow. I mean, I love that movie. It's just a classic. It's just fun to be able to work with it,
Yeah, that's in my top 10 all-time favorite movies. The Crow never leaves that top 10. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be up there for me too. And it's funny when I came out when I was in high school, so I have like this nostalgia around it, and every time I watch it, it takes me back to that time period, but in a great way. I mean, but it also just stands on its own, and it never feels dated to me. It never feels like it is of its time, and I don't know. That's a hallmark of a great film to me, but it's just so well done.
It really is, and that soundtrack too is like top notch.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah, that was a good period in time for movies and everything. It had that like grungy look to it, really dark and just kind of nasty. We don't really have that anymore. I kind of miss that part.
Yeah, I agree. And it felt so I don't want to say lo-fi, but it almost, I mean, it felt independent in a way, like I mean, I don't know if it was classified as an independent film or anything, but it felt almost like a little DIY. Like it wasn't like glitzy in terms of like, CGI or trying to be something it wasn't. It was just straightforward. I don't know. There's definitely an element about it that is just perfect.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And that was just something like that came out of the 90s too. It was like a lot of that stuff had that dirty kind of almost, the VHS feel being that, it was a VHS time period, but I don't know, there's something dirty and gritty about those like dramas, like the horrors, the thrillers and all from back then that we don't have now.
Yeah. I mean, there's, like Seven and even like Fight Club, and there's a certain palette, and style that definitely pervaded in the 90s.
Definitely. So when you came up with when you got the whole Crow line on Fright-Rags and all, how did you reach out to the artist? Did the artist reach out to you, or how's that work?
So it's we work with a lot of different artists. There's a few that are kind of exclusive to us. Justin Osborne and Kyle Crawford are exclusive to us when it comes to at least horror shirt designs. So we always want them to do something. Osborne had done one for us before. So that wasn't part of the new collection. But and then we had this, for example, the one we did for the new collection that we did that was based off of a Frank Miller Sin City style. We used Jeffrey Blazeman, who's a great comic book type artist. Like he does other styles too, but I've always loved his ability to sort of capture a lot of different comic styles that I liked growing up. Obviously Frank Miller included, but there's like Jack Kirby and classic illustrators and things like that. So, the thing is, we have the rights to the movie The Crow. We don't have rights to the graphic novel that it was based on, or the comic series by James O'Barr. So if we wanted to do something comic themed, we really couldn't cross over into that realm. I mean, someone had commented, they're like, why would you take someone else's style and not just use the comic series? Well, we can't, we couldn't do it. And B, I loved the Frank Miller style, that stark contrast, noir, black and white, and it just lends itself to something like The Crow. And it's a clear homage. We're not trying to, we weren't trying to copy like a James O'Barr thing and make it look different, or, it was literally trying to be like Frank Miller if Frank Miller did The Crow, the movie, as the comic book. So it's a little bit of a couple steps removed, but I just thought it was a cool idea. I mean, with something like The Crow and other properties that we've done a lot for, you just got to start thinking out of the box. So in most cases, when it comes to us doing something for a property, we're the ones reaching out to the artists and the people that we want to work with that we think could lend their style to what we want to do, and then go from there.
That's cool. And I think with this design too, you really nailed the feeling of the 90s, and like we're just talking, the dark grittiness of it, I think you really nailed that with this line. So
thanks. Yeah, that's always the point, right? Like you want to make it fit the property. I mean, once in a while you can really stretch it a little bit. I mean, take a character like Michael Myers, who's so iconic. You can at this point you can have fun with him. I mean, you can do the stuff that we've done a ton of straightforward Halloween designs, but you can also have some fun with that character because he's just iconic. So you can step out of the norm a little bit, and I think it's acceptable.
Yeah, definitely, because like I said, he's been around so long, and there's many different versions of Michael Myers and stuff. So yeah, you can definitely do some things with that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go take a question back a little bit, go back in time. How'd you start Fright-Rags? What was the origin story on all that?
So, I mean, it started in 2003, so we're celebrating our 20th year. And it kind of, sometimes I say it started in 1981 because that's when I saw Halloween for the first time, and that was my first horror movie experience. I saw it. It was a network television premiere on Friday, October 30th, 1981. And I mean, I was only 4 years old, and I watched it at a friend's house. We were at a party. It was a family friend's house, and I was just by myself because I was bored, and my parents were off talking to their friends, and my brothers and sister were off with their friends, and I just sat in front of the TV, and on came this movie, and I just watched it, and it was Halloween. And so I've been a horror fan since then, and I was always been into design, even when I couldn't articulate what that meant when I was younger. I was always drawn to branding and marketing, and I was a skateboard kid. I mean, I was really a BMX kid, but I was into the BMX and skateboard culture. My friends were skateboarders, so when I would see the logos on the brands like GT or Airwalk or something like that, Powell Peralta, Bones Brigade, all that stuff spoke to me in a way that I always wanted to create something, but I never did. And I wanted to be a comic book illustrator. I wanted to be a musician. I'm all of these things. I want to be a filmmaker. So I went to school starting to be a filmmaker. Well, I went for illustration, quickly switched to filmmaking, then dropped out so I could play in my band, with my brothers, and then I went back to school a couple years later for graphic design, and that's really when I fell in love with the ability to create art that communicates, and you use text and imagery and things like that. So I got my degree in graphic design and started working at a local company here called Roadwire. We made laptop bags. I was literally the third person hired, and I did all the marketing, collateral, print stuff, web stuff, product photography. I got to do a lot of stuff, which was great, and it got me a lot of experience, but I was kind of bored. So in 2003, and this is before, I had gotten married. I mean, my wife, or she was my fiance at the time, we were living together in an apartment, but we didn't have a house. We didn't have kids yet. So we had a lot of time. And I just started coming up with ideas of what could I do? Like, I wanted to create something. And I was always on forums that would, like with people, horror fans, but also forums where people made stuff like masks and, Freddy gloves and all these things. And a good friend of mine, we became a good friend of mine, Justin Mabry, who had a forum called Night Owl Forums. He was one of the best mask makers in the business, and he and I became really good friends and talked for hours all the time, and we were the same age, so we had a lot of similar experiences. And he actually went on to form Trick or Treat Studios with Chris Zephyros, so he's one of the owners of that company. But back in the day, I had come up with these designs, and I had always liked weird shirts too. It was just sort of a thing that I would wear in high school and stuff. So I thought I never really had any horror t-shirts, and I love horror movies so much, and maybe I should come up with some ideas. And I thought of, it was back during the What Would Jesus Do craze.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, what would Jason do? And I thought, well, if we could replace the J with a hockey mask, that'd be funny. Everyone would get it. And I looked all over, and I hadn't found anybody that did that. I had that idea or put that out. And I thought, well, I could do it. And then Justin said, hey, you should post those on my forum and, see if people like it. And he was totally cool with it. He actually made the post, and people really dug that shirt. And then I had one with just a hockey mask, and then I had one with a Michael Myers mask that said Trick or Treat underneath it. And it was this weird thing because people started really liking it, and they said, hey, I'd buy that, and where can I get that, and all this stuff. And I'm like, that's interesting. Maybe I could actually do something. So I came up with a name, and I hand coded a website and just kind of threw it up there in September of 2003 and ordered shirts. My fiance was like, what are you doing? It's like $600 worth of shirts. And I was on my credit card. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to pay this back. I had no idea what the hell I was doing, and just kind of jumped in without any knowledge of running a business.
Wow, that's crazy. And going on 20 years, that's badass. And also congrats on that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I could have never imagined being here 20 years later and still doing this. So it's been a blast.
The cool thing I like about the Fright-Rags stuff is it has kind of has that band feeling. Like I'm wearing a cool band shirt. It has that same type of feeling to it, with outrageous designs and stuff and the artwork.
Oh, thank you. I mean, that's, it's funny when you, especially nowadays when we have so many properties to work with, there's always that, what should we do? What should we do? And again, I'm fortunate to work with a lot of great artists that, I can turn to and say, hey, what do you think? Granted, we internally come up with ideas at times too. And Chris, who's our operations manager, he has a ton of ideas, and sometimes we'll sit around and just go back and forth. And then other people in the office will be like, hey, we should do something like this. I'm like, yeah, actually, that's a pretty good idea. I think I know the artist that could do that. Or it's a very collaborative process. But there's definitely a curation involved in making sure. I mean, art is subjective, of course. Not everyone's going to like everything, and that's okay. But, I got to be able to look at that and go, yeah, that belongs on our website. And, sometimes you do take chances. Sometimes I'm like, hey, that's not something that I necessarily would wear, but I do recognize its potential and others might really dig it. So let's put it out. So there's definitely a process there.
That's cool. And I think over the past 5 or 6 years, horror's really started to boom again. You're seeing a lot of different horror T-shirts. Everything's kind of horror related now, which is really awesome. So this is a good time for Fright-Rags, I would think.
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, weirdly enough, we grew exponentially during the pandemic, which was, at the beginning of that, I had no idea we would even still be in business, and it really catapulted us. I mean, we were doing just fine before that, but it is kind of, I mean, I know it happened with a lot of other online businesses, of course, not just us, but which was great. But you're right, the horror thing, it's so funny. And I'm sure you know this as a horror fan. We're fans through and through. I mean, nobody could be watching this stuff and we're going to sit here and talk about it because we're fans. And yet, in the general zeitgeist, I guess, if you will, you feel every so often there's this wave of horror and it becomes popular in sort of the, quote unquote mainstream, and everyone's talking about horror movies. It's like the new cool thing. And then it sort of subsides, and then it comes back and it subsides, and yet we're all still here going, yeah, but it's still cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, horror was not cool. It's just, every so often there's this crop of people that are like, hey, horror's cool. Like, I remember being at there's a licensing show I go to every year in Las Vegas in the summer, and it's where all these studios, big and small, get together and you go and have meetings and you can, talk business and licensing and stuff. And generally there's always, there's keynote speakers and there's other seminars and stuff that you can go to as well. But there's always a few things during that show that everyone's talking about. Like one year, everyone was talking about Amazon because of they wanted to get more into printing on demand or something. So like every meeting was like, hey, do you sell on Amazon and Amazon and Amazon and this? And one year it was all horror. Everyone's like, horror, horror, horror. I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's what we do. That's what we've been doing for years.
Right.
This isn't anything new for us. Like, yeah, horror's a thing, just sometimes it takes people a minute to realize that, I guess.
Yeah, especially right now, you got the new Evil Dead movie, and they're making a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
The new Scream was there doing its thing. Like, it's huge right now. It's like we're on kind of almost the top of the wave, I think, right now. Like, it's really out there. People are really digging hard, and I love that. That's cool, because I think we need more people enjoying horror movies. That way we get more, more movies made and stuff like that. So it's a good time for horror.
I agree. I think, and I always laugh at the people that are just, they come out and they're like, Hollywood's got to get new ideas. They just keep rebooting everything. And why are they, raping my childhood, or, all these silly things. And it's like, first of all, like, yes, there was, the new Halloween trilogy, Scream came back, Evil Dead. And yet for every reboot or reimagined or requel or legacy sequel franchise there is literally a dozen original horror movies coming out. I mean, if you have Shudder alone, you can watch new horror every single day practically, and it's from all over the world. It's from all different types of people, and I just think people are, quite frankly, lazy when they say there's no new good horror movies. Because first of all, there are tons if you just go looking, and you don't have to look very far, but people don't want to do that. And B, I think people are also going to these legacy sequels or other things thinking that they're going to relive part of their childhood, and that's not going to happen. These movies, like I love Scream. I love the original Scream, and I love the first sort of series, if you want to call it that. I liked Scream 5. I thought it was a good movie. The last one I thought was fine. It's just you start thinking, okay, how are they going to switch this up? Or are they going to switch this up? And it's not, I didn't hate it at all. It was just one of those things where I'm like, okay. But if a kid, like my son who's 13, loves Scream, and if he sees that and wants to watch the original, or any kid that maybe his parent took him to the theater to see it or something and is interested, now they can get into the originals. And just like with Halloween, So I don't know. I feel like there's a place for all of these films, and not everything's made for, for that type, for your mid 40s, horror fan. And not to say that it has to be, but we can still enjoy it. It's just, I don't know. It's a weird thing. I just feel like people sometimes really, put things down when it's like, we are in a time of abundance when it comes to being a horror fan. Like, I really do feel that way.
Yeah, we totally are. And I hear that shit all the time, too. I'm like, oh, there's no new good horror out there. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm still trying to catch one shit from last year.
No kidding.
Really good stuff. There's so much shit out there right now. So much good stuff.
I have so many movies that I have not seen yet. And, I don't know. I don't think people know what they want. I think that's part of it. I think they know what they want, but they really don't. But I don't know. Everyone's different, I mean, it's fine if people don't like certain things. It's just I just don't get the vitriol sometimes when I'm like, guys, like chill. Like you can A, go watch the movies you love and adore. They haven't gone away. And B, there is new stuff if you just kind of take some chances, you know?
Yeah, totally. And another thing too, like with the new Scream movie, like all these new like entries in like these old franchises, it's kind of like gateways for like the younger kids and younger adults or whatever to get into horror. Like if they haven't been into horror before, it's kind of like the same shit we had back when Scream first came out or Nightmare on Elm Street. That was our gateway, and I'm sure there was people like older folks back then talking shit about that too. Like oh, what is this crap? It's just that's how people get into horror movies, and I think it's fucking cool.
Yeah, same here, man. Same here. And I know there were people, if you go back and read like old Gore Zones or even some Fangorias and reviews on movies like, let's say Halloween 4 or something, because that was the first Halloween movie I saw in the theater. Now, I obviously had seen the original Halloween and, of course, part 2 up to that point and even part 3. But I love Halloween 4 because I was 11 and I saw it in the theater, and and I still think it's a great movie. It's still probably my favorite sequel of that franchise. But you read a review at the time of a person who's, I think they were probably in, I can't remember who wrote the review, but they were probably in their like late 30s, maybe even early 40s, and they're like, this movie's crap and blah 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, I can see that because you were used to other types of films, growing up maybe in the 60s and 70s. But for someone like me who was a kid, it spoke to me and I still love it. So I mean, there's going to be like that hopefully for these newer movies that come out that maybe I don't like, but a kid who's 11 will see it and love it, and then dive deeper into the franchises and other horror movies. I mean, and that's only a good thing.
No, I think it's great. I mean, like I said, more people watching horror, the more horror movies get made and stuff like that, and it keeps the legacy of horror growing, throughout the generations and stuff like that. So I think it's fucking really cool.
Yeah, man, totally.
And when it comes to like remakes, I still stand by it that the original Texas Chainsaw remake is one of the fucking best remakes ever made.
Yeah, that was a great film. And we're actually going to be we're doing designs for it right now that we're going to be celebrating its 20th anniversary, I think next month. We've got a collection coming if everything gets approved and printed in time. But yeah, that's another one. I mean, that movie's 20 years old. Like, that's crazy. And that was during that kind of Platinum Dunes era, of these movies kind of making a comeback and reimaginings or whatever you want to use the term. And that's a great example of one that I think people probably saw and then were like, what, this was based on another movie? Let's check that one out.
Yeah, and it was so fucking brutal. I remember seeing that in the movie theater, and people were like screaming and stuff. I'm like, oh my god, this is so good. And I love the original too. The original's fucking great, but man, that remake's it's pretty close to the original. It might be blasphemy, but it's not as good as the original, no.
Right.
But it's pretty fucking close.
Yeah, it's a solid film for sure. And I love Leatherface's look. I love what they did to update the movie without trying to do everything the original did, in terms of, trying to make it look like it or, whatever. They did their own thing and it was still incredibly effective.
That was a pretty decent time for horror too. I think, what was that? The earlier 2000s, I believe, like 2003 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had that. The first Wrong Turn, which I still stand by saying that was a pretty damn cool movie. I saw that in theaters and everything. Like, I don't know, that was kind of a cool time for horror. There's a lot of dark, dirty shit that came out around that time.
Well, High Tension came out that year. House of Corpses, Freddy versus Jason. I mean, there was a lot of. You're right. There was a lot of great movies. Jeepers Creepers 2. Yeah, a lot of good stuff that year and in that time.
Yeah. When it going back to that time, I have a giant Subway poster of Freddy versus Jason in my living room. It's like huge ass poster. I do like that movie just for being as fun as it was. A lot of people hated that one too, but I'm like, man, it's Freddy versus Jason. Don't take it that seriously. It's fucking those two.
I agree. When I saw it in the theater, and at first I wasn't sure what to expect, and when that dude's head came off and that blood just gushed, I was like, okay, this is just fun as hell. Like, that's all we got to take it as, is just something that's ridiculously fun, and that's what it was. I just think it's almost like it was almost borderline horror comedy in a way, even though they played it straight. But I mean, my whole thing was I would have preferred a Kane Hodder Jason versus a Freddy, but Like I think what they did to change things up worked for the story and everything. But yeah, it's just a fun movie.
Yeah, and it had the well back then I listened to a lot of new metal and stuff. Don't tell anybody, but everybody knows now, so whatever. But the soundtrack, man, I was like, oh hell yeah, this is awesome. It had like all like the like new metal bands and stuff. I can't remember some of the fucking names off there. I just know it was a good soundtrack. I think maybe Killswitch Engage was on there. Some of the earlier stuff that I was listening to, but
Yeah, I think so. I remember that being pretty new metal heavy for sure.
yeah, which I hear that's kind of making a comeback, but I'm way good on that. I did my time. I don't need any more new metal. I'm fine with that.
Someone I saw, she posted that she saw someone in Janko's the other day, and I thought that was hilarious. Like that was all sort of past my time, so it's just like I was kind of aged out of that stuff, that kind of scene before, before it even came on. So it's funny to me that people are now getting nostalgic for it, or people like kids coming up today are, dressing that way or something. And it's just funny to me because it's like, wow, that's so beyond where I was at at that time.
Yeah, see, that was my time period was the 90s. I was born in 85, so like the 90s were like my thing, Jinkos and all that stuff, Airwalks. And now it's like it's like the new 80s, you know what I mean? Like everybody's dressed in like kind of 90s, early 2000s now, and it's really bizarre.
Yeah, no, I always tell people 90s are the new 80s, and it's true. I mean, it's 30 years ago. I mean, and it's funny when I have, I do have a nostalgia for the 90s because I mean, I was an 80s kid for sure. I mean, I was born in 77, so I mean, I spent most of my childhood, in the 80s, but as I got into 90s, it was then becoming a teenager, and that decade was going from a teen to an adult and all the things that came with that. So when I think back, it's end of middle school into high school into college into all these other things I was doing, and it's funny how those time periods shape a person's life and what we each remember out of it. I mean, I have someone who works with me, Heather. She is pretty much exactly 10 years younger than me, so she was born 2 years after you, and she remembers seeing H2O in the theater at like 11. And to me, that was the experience I had with Halloween 4. And I don't have the nostalgia for H2O. I loved it. I think it's a great movie. Don't get me wrong. But there's a deeper nostalgia for her because of her age. And I totally get that, and that's the thing. Our experiences shape how we look at things and how we think of things and how we feel of things. And we're not each going to have the same experience at the certain ages where we grew up and all those other factors.
Right. That's the same kind of. I get that nostalgic feeling every time I watch Beetlejuice, which is one of my favorite films. I fucking love Beetlejuice. I can watch it 1,000 times. I probably watched it over 1,000 times since I was a kid. But I see they're doing a sequel to that, and at least it has a lot of the original people in there. Beetlejuice is back and stuff. And I think I can't remember if I think what's her name's gonna be her lady is gonna be in there. Having a
Oh,
brain
Winona,
fart on
right?
her. Winona
Yeah,
Ryder. Yeah, I think she's gonna be in there.
Oh, I can't wait. I agree. Beetlejuice is one of my all-time favorite movies. So I'm in for the sequel, man. I'm down. Like, let's do it. But you're right. That movie is highly, highly rewatchable. I could probably put it on repeat and wouldn't get old.
Yeah, I was just watching it for like I said, 1,000th time a couple of days ago. I'm like, man, I still love this movie, and I still I get that feeling when I first watched it. Like it takes me right back to that time period again. It's like, like a magical like time trip or whatever. It's cool.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
Another one too that I don't think gets enough attention is Little Monsters from back in the was it late 80s, early 90s with Howie Mandel.
Oh yeah, and Fred Savage. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think wasn't that like 89 maybe? But yeah, that was fun too, for sure. I mean, I was a Fred Savage fan because I loved Wonder Years, so that movie. Yeah, 89. I just looked it up. It was 89. Yeah, that was fun for sure.
That would be a cool ass fucking property to get for Fright-Rags, man. That'd be awesome. I'd buy the shit out of it.
I know. I'd love to. That was so. I think that is through Vestron, which was through Lionsgate. So that would be Lionsgate's kind of hard to deal with. We've worked with them in the past, and if we ever work with them again, I'd love to get that though for sure.
Yeah, that'd be way cool. I also like how you're kind of teamed up with Joe Bob in the last drive-in. That's really fucking awesome.
Oh yeah, I mean we were working with Joe Bob before the last drive-in was even a thing. We had worked with him starting in 2016, and he came up to here in Rochester, New York, for a weekend to do a screening. And he's just a great guy. We had a lot of fun hanging out that weekend. And um, Justin Osborne, who's one of our main artists who does all the artwork for, the main Last Drive-In stuff, he is a humongous fan of Joe Bob. So it really was great when they announced the Last Drive-In and we were able to do a design. And kind of a funny story, when he was up here signing posters, this again, pre-Last Drive-In, I got a DM from this woman. She's like, "Oh my God," because I posted a picture on Twitter like he's signing our posters. We're gonna put up for sale, and she was like, I love Joe Bob. I can't wait to meet him next week. I'm so nervous. Is he nice?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, he's great." She's like, "Yeah, I'm going to a book signing." I'm like, "That's cool." And about a year and a half later, I got a DM from her, and she's like, "Guess who's the new mail girl?" And it was Darcy. I mean, she was a
Oh,
customer of ours, and but yeah, she's such a huge fan, and for her to get the mail girl job was amazing. And then just to be able to work with them now and do all this cool stuff, and then to see all the people that not only buy it but like display it proudly on Friday nights when he's on, and tweet about them in their lounge pants, and they got their cup and souvenir cup, and they've got their new shirt on, and it's so cool, like, to be a part of that. Even a little part of that is just amazing, because I love Joe Bob, and I love The Last Drive-In, and I love that he has had this resurgence in his career, and at a time when we can all be like watch it together. Like when I was younger and watching him on Monster Vision, it was like watching with a friend, and I would be by myself, but I felt oddly comforted because it felt like I was watching it with somebody.
hmm.
And in this case, I am watching it with somebody, even though I'm by myself. I get on Twitter and I see all these people watching the same movie, and we're talking back and forth about the movie, about Joe Bob, about what they just said or did. And it's just this communal experience that I think I'm just so happy for him, and Darcy for that matter. And just, I don't know, I just think it's just great, and I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, I get that same feeling you do. Like I tweet every Friday unless I fall asleep because I'm up at like 5 a.m. every day for work, so I can't stay up as late as a lot of people can anymore. It's getting
It's
to me,
hard.
but
It's
it
hard.
is.
East Coast, man. Like even last night, my wife and I had been watching a movie, and when it was over, I jumped over to the Babadook so I could catch the end of that, or the last half of it, and then the Mothers started, and I was like, dude, I'm not gonna lie, like I crashed, and I was like, I gotta go to bed, like. But the nice thing is you can watch it later, which is cool. But I always do like watching as much as I can live.
Yeah, because it feels like you're not sitting there alone. Like my wife doesn't watch like all the horror. She watches a lot of horror with me, but she doesn't watch like Joe Bub or whatever, which is cool. So I watch Joe Bub with my black cat Lily. She sits on the couch right next to me every Friday. Like she likes Joe Bub, I guess. I think she likes the chirping and stuff of the pre Joe Bob countdown.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So we'll watch that for like 30 minutes and stuff. But like, especially during the pandemic and stuff, man, like it made me feel like I was not alone at all, because I wasn't going to work or anything like that. So there's no outside activity, but being able to like sit there and tweet with everybody, like I try to do that every Friday. And this, I don't know, there's a big community feeling there. Like it's very welcoming and stuff. And I don't know, there's something warm and fuzzy about it.
Oh, 100%. Like I feel the same exact way. And my friends and I do a terror tweet every weekend as well. We were doing it once a month, pre-pandemic, but when COVID hit, we started doing it every week. And it's a similar thing, even though it's only maybe a few of us will pick a movie and watch it at the same time, and then we tweet. But yeah, and now we do it on Discord. But it's just having that kind of ability. And again, with the platform like Joe Bob and Last Drive-In, and how it was even back with Monster Vision, like that type of thing, if you will, lends itself so well to that group watch communal experience, and having something like Twitter to be able to just banter back and forth. I mean, to see a movie like no one's really talked about trending on Twitter because so many people are talking about it at the moment because they're watching it together is pretty powerful. I mean, that just goes to show you the effect it's having.
Yeah, and it gets all these people exposed to movies they probably never knew anything about. It's like, oh, this movie's fucking awesome. Never seen it before, but now you have Joe Bob sitting there explaining it to you and going over like the cool facts and everything. Like that's really special.
Yeah, I wouldn't pick the Mother's off the shelf to watch, you know what I mean, or rent or whatever. I wouldn't pick it from something, but oh, Joe Bob's gonna watch it and tell us all about it, and we're gonna watch it together. It's like going to school, right? It's almost like going to class, and Joe Bob's like, all right, these are the movies we're watching today. I'm gonna tell you all about them. And it's like, okay, I'm here for whatever. And sometimes the movies are awful, but still, they're made fun with him and everybody else.
Yeah, I kind of like the bad ones because then we can
Yeah,
really get down on some like
yeah,
funny tweets and those
that's
get
true.
shared and like it's
Yeah,
hilarious.
yeah.
Last night, what'd you say? What was the Babadook or whatever? I made it all the way through the Babadook without falling asleep, so that was cool. Because usually, like I said, I'm out by the first movie. Sometimes I can make it through like half of the second movie. But man, that was only my second time watching the Babadook, I believe, and I kind of like it more than I did the first time. The first time I was kind of like a little lukewarm on it, and how I felt about it. A lot of hype at that time too, but rewatching it with Joe Bob and stuff, I kind of like appreciate it a bit more.
I agree. I would say me too. It was my second time watching it as well, and I only caught about the last half of it, but still, it was. Yeah, I mean, I think I probably had I liked it when I first saw it, but I probably have a deeper appreciation of it now. It's been several years, and having Joe Bob talk through it, whatever, it's definitely helped. And I mean, it's a great film. I mean, and I love hearing about like what the writer director had to go through, and the woman that played the main character there, and how she was being taught by the writer director. And I don't know, it's just great to hear all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Bob is like an encyclopedia when it comes to movie knowledge. Like he knows so much. When you think you know a lot, and like, oh, well, Joe Bob knows about twice as much as that and what you know. So
He's incredibly well prepared. I mean, the work he puts into each movie. I mean, he watches each movie dozens of times, watches all the commentaries, reads everything he can, finds every little I mean, it's what's wild about him is when you watch him, it's so fluid, and it's almost like it's coming from the top of his head, but all that stuff is scripted. Like all of
Mhm.
those things, he's actually, it just feels so natural. I mean, obviously, he's writing it, so I mean, I'm sure a lot of it he can recall, but I mean, the work he puts in, the fact that he makes it look so effortless is just incredible, because then people just assume like it's almost like he just knows all this stuff. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah,
Mhm.
but he has to research, and I mean, just like anybody would have to, you know what I mean? I mean, of course, but I don't know. It's great. Like he just does, I don't know, he's just doing a great service for horror fans.
He really is. And I gotta say my favorite. I don't know if it was actually a season of Last Drive-In. It might have been before the actual season started. It might have been like a special. But when he did like his whole Phantasm marathon, I think he went through all the movies of Phantasm. That was like some of the best shit ever.
Oh yeah, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I think it was some special he did. That's the
Mhm.
other thing. I love the specials he does. I love the charities that he's doing. Charity show every December. Like it's a lot of great things coming out of the Last Drive-In.
Yeah, it really is. And yeah, I'm just happy it's still going on. I want to see it going for at least another 10 years. Hopefully,
I
I
know.
don't want to never see it end. It's gonna be sad when it does.
Oh, I know. I know.
I've watched some of his older episodes on because I didn't have cable growing up as a kid, so I'd only get to catch like Monster Vision or something like that. But I was like spending the night at a family member's house that had cable, so we never had cable. So just like going back, sometimes you can watch older episodes of Monster Vision. You can catch it on YouTube or something every once in a while, and it just brings back all that nostalgia feeling.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I had a similar experience. We had cable the first year it was available to us in like 80, 81, 82, and then we got rid of it after about a year, and I didn't get it back again until I was in high school. So it was like early 90s. So I spent the most of my young childhood without cable, but then by, mid late 90s when we had cable, I was able to watch Monster Vision. But I know there have been people, and I actually back 15, 20 years ago, I was buying the Monster Vision bootleg discs on eBay. But now uh, Darcy has a thing. I forgot where it is, but it's called the Lost Drive-In, and that's a lot of his old shows and things that they're putting out like exclusively through Patreon or something with Joe Bob and Darcy doing it. So you can actually get a little bit more official versions, which is awesome. So they are available, but you're right, you can kind of find them on YouTube and stuff, and it is nostalgia, man. You put it on and it just takes you right back.
It does, man. And like I said, you not having cable, and me not having cable, I'm totally making up for it now. I don't have cable now, but I have like 50 streaming services. So,
Yes, exactly. Yeah, same here. Like we got rid of our actual cable, but we just stack on the screening services.
man, yeah, I use them all pretty decently. But like the new show, new season of From. Have you been checking that out? From?
No, I haven't seen that at all. From?
It
Where's that?
yes, it's on season 2 right now, and it's on MGM Plus, which is some weird ass fucking streaming channel that really it doesn't have too much going on for it, except for From, and it also has I think Chapel White was on there as well. But From is from the producers of Lost. Um,
Okay.
Takes place in this weird ass town that if you travel through this town and you happen to go around this town, you get stuck in this town, you can't leave. And
Whoa.
and if you go out at nighttime, they got these fucking which have not been described of what nobody knows what these are yet. They're kind of vampire type weird things that come out at night, and they look just like humans until they like turn and then they eat you. So
Whoa.
nighttime is a no go, and you're trapped here. And there's some kind of like giant supernatural element keeping everybody here, and they're keeping them fed and everything too, because food just miraculously shows up, which is really weird. And these things at night, they can stay away from if you have these like these runes or whatever that are located around this whole like little town and stuff. If you have a room on your door or whatever, they won't come in for some reason. So there's some type of like magical thing going on there too. It's like Lost with vampire type creatures and even more weirdness than what Lost was. It's fucking good.
Wow. I'll have to check that out. That
Yeah,
sounds,
it's called From.
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And so that was another weird streaming service that I only like activate that when that show comes back around. Like,
Yeah. Get the
you
free
know,
trial or something or pay for a month.
yeah. And like there's so many good ones out there. Like Arrow's really good. Shutter, of course, and then Screenbox. I have that one now because they really been having some really cool shit on there now. So
Yeah, I feel like it's limitless. I mean, you're right. There's all these great horror specific ones, and then there's also the normal ones that have a ton of horror on them too. So it's like it is a smorgasbord out there.
it really is. And I think out of all of them, I think Netflix gets the least amount from me when it comes to like viewing time because only thing I use Netflix for myself right now is watching Seinfeld because
Oh
it's
yeah.
my favorite show ever, and they have it on there. So I'm going to be watching it on there again. So
Oh yeah. I love Seinfeld. I have all of them on DVD, but I still find myself going on Netflix and watching them too. So
yeah, it's just easier to do. It's like, all right, I'm just
it's
going to stream it. I'm not going to put a DVD in.
exactly.
There's I'm gonna do a podcast series sometime in the future about the connections between Seinfeld and like just horror movies in general, especially like Twin Peaks. They share a lot of different actors and stuff. There's been a lot of horror people to go through Seinfeld.
Dude, it's so funny you mentioned that because I started doing a Seinfeld rewatch probably about at this point it's probably been about 2 years, and I actually got through all of almost everything. I probably got through halfway season 9, so I haven't finished it. But I started noticing the same exact thing, and I started putting notes in my phone because I couldn't like there were so many people. Like was it Howard Sherman who played Bub? Day of the Dead. He was in
Hmm.
like. There's so many people that are like I look at and go, oh my God, like it's that person from these movies, and like I started making notes because it's the same thing. Is you should totally write that article.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna do a podcast series on like a extended episode type thing, maybe 3 or 4 episodes on just like connecting some of the dots there. I think that'd be really cool.
Awesome. Yeah, you got to do that.
There's one of the big noticeable ones is Tobin Bell who plays like the record store guy or whatever.
That's right. That's right. Yep.
Yeah, such a great episode. And to me, it almost feels like Seinfeld and Twin Peaks share a similar universe because they share so many damn actors, and especially what was it? George's wife's, well, his ex-wife, her family, like they're all like people from Twin Peaks, pretty
That's
much, and
great.
like, yeah, it seems like it shares the same universe.
It'd be funny to kind of do like a crossover, like I don't know, something, like Seinfeld Peaks or something where you like write or like do like a trailer or something. It'd be hilarious.
Oh, that would be awesome. I'm surprised nobody's done that yet, or
Yeah.
did like a video edit with a Twin
Yeah,
Peaks type thing going on with Seinfeld.
exactly.
Yeah, that's like the best comedy ever. I love The Office too, but nothing compares to Seinfeld.
Yeah, I think it's hard because I had never seen The Office until COVID hit, and I had just done I was on this kick where I was like, all right, I've never seen like Mad Men, so I went through all 7 seasons of Mad Men in like 2 months, and then I'm like, I've never seen The Office, and then COVID hit, and I had nothing, we were locked down, so I burned through all 9 seasons of The Office in like 2 months or something. It was crazy, but I do love that show, but
Hmm.
if I had to pick one, it might be Seinfeld, like just because I've watched it when it was on, and then when I was in college, we used to watch it all the time, and then it's just, I don't know, that show is just so good. But yeah, I do love The Office as well.
Yeah, The Office ranks really high. It might come in like really close second to Seinfeld, like, but overall Seinfeld always going to win out for me. But The Office is right there because it's another one of those like comfort shows you can watch. You just throw it on and like you feel better, you know.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
Some fucking great. And also has some horror elements too. What doesn't have horror elements has a few people like Rainn Wilson, who was originally Fish Boy in A House of a Thousand Corpses.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, yeah, hell of a connection there. He sure made it big though. That's good for him.
Oh, I know. Isn't it funny? Like think about him in House, and then how he like what a year later ended up on The Office, and like one of the biggest shows of that time, like just catapulted him and everybody on that show pretty much.
He was also in the one of the new Star Treks. I don't know which one, but one of the new Star Trek shows. Rainn Wilson's on there playing some like kind of comedy type bad guy. You know, something you would think Dwight would play. So I think that's cool.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, he's made it big. So, like recently, have you watched anything that's like noteworthy, like in the past few months or whatever?
I'm trying to think. I have to check my diary and letterbox here, but I did watch I mean, again, I'm usually behind on a lot of things. It's very hard to just watch all the new stuff when it comes out, and I don't know, I'm just in my own world, I guess. I'm just doing other things, working and whatever. But I did watch Pearl, which I loved, and again, I know that
Mhm.
came out with last year or whatever, but I really liked that because I liked X, and I thought it was fine, it was good. But then when I watched Pearl, I was like, ooh, I gotta watch X again because I just love the way Mia Goth plays that character, and I can't wait for Maxine. Like I just thought that was a really good movie. Um,
Mhm.
it's funny, like a lot of the movies that I've been watching recently are just ones that I've seen either plenty of times or just, you know, oh, you know what I liked, in terms of newer movies, and again, this is a couple months ago, but I really enjoyed Megan. I thought that was a great movie. I thought it was to me like this interesting. I'm using the term very loosely, but like new horror. Like
Mhm.
it was great. I loved it. I thought it was a fun movie, but I could see this being a movie that, again, like if you're a kid, you're younger, or you're preteens or whatever, this would be a good almost gateway horror film. I could see this being like like Chucky was when I was a kid. And not to say that,
Mhm.
I mean, she's certainly not. I mean, she's brutal, but I mean, Chucky was definitely more cynical and brutal.
Right.
I don't want to compare the two. I'm just saying in terms of like, I remember when I was a kid and running into the store wanting to watch new, Child's Play when it came out, and I could see, if kids are, well, not the kids are going to the movie stores, but like video stores, but like wanting to put that on a sleepover or something, and have it be a cool gateway horror. I think that's cool. Trying to think what else I watched. Oh, I watched Sick when it came out. That was written by Kevin Williamson, I believe. I
Mhm.
thought that was fine. I mean, that was about the pandemic, but it was like, I don't know. It was okay. I watched is it The Watcher or Watcher, the one with I'm gonna get it, Micah Monroe.
Uh,
That
uh,
was really good. That was really good. So,
that was
and
on Shutter, right?
yeah, that was on
Yeah.
Shudder. Um, I watched a couple of the newer ones that I've enjoyed recently in recent months are Deadstream and Barbarian. Those were great.
Oh
Those
hell yeah,
were fun.
Barbarian was my favorite of last year. That was my number one.
That was wild, man. I just put it on, not expecting anything, not knowing what to expect, I should say, and what a ride that movie was. Holy cow.
Yeah, I went in blind with that one too. Like everybody told me, don't look up anything about this one; it totally ruined it for you. So I did not watch any trailers or anything like that. Went in with it like that first half, like, oh, I see where this is going. This guy's gonna be a creep or whatever. It's gonna be one of those type movies where he probably like keeps her hostage. Oh no, it goes way down the rabbit hole, man. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, what now? Like it totally took me for a loop. But you know what? Good on them for doing that. I mean, I like movies that surprise me. I mean, I'm pretty easy to please when it comes to movies. Like I'm not trying to come from an angle of like, oh my God, like this should have done this or whatever. Like I'm fairly easy to please. But in that sense though, there are times you watch a movie, you're like, okay, that wasn't. But like watching something like Barbarian, I'm like, this was just so much fun. I mean, it just made me want to show people that movie and get there and see their reaction.
Yeah, it's so good. No, I'm also Deadstream. That made my list last year too. I thought that was really fucking cool.
Dude, it was late October and I had COVID, so I was I was isolating over here in my home office area. We have an addition on our house where I have like my office where I'm sitting now and like a movie room and stuff like that. And I was sitting on the couch and I was just gonna put something on to watch, and I heard about Deadstream and I'm like, I'll just toss this on. What the hell? And within probably 2 minutes, I was like, oh, this movie's gonna be a lot of fun. Like I cannot, like this is great. And it was so much fun, and so much fun in fact, I posted on Twitter. We ended up getting in contact with Joseph Winter, who did it and who was in it, starred it and wrote and directed it with his wife. And yeah, and we ended up working together and doing shirts. So like how great was that?
Yeah, that is great, and yeah, I totally love that movie, and it gave me like Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness vibes.
Oh yeah, I mean it had that total like Evil Dead almost slash Blair Witch Project crossover thing going, or mashup. And yeah, I thought it was just fun and fresh. And I don't know. I mean, when I can sit there and not be bored watching a movie, that's always a good thing. Like I wasn't bored. I had fun with it, and it was over. And I was like, this is a great fun movie. That was cool. And I don't know. I mean, what more do you want?
Right. It's movies like that that keep me from like grabbing my phone mid movie, and I hate doing that. But if I start to get bored, I'm like, oh, let's look at something else on here. It's like
Yep.
I want a movie to keep my attention because phones and all this stuff really doesn't help with me keeping my attention on shit anymore. So
I hear that 100%.
there's also a really killer film that's out now that came out in 2022, was called All Eyes. Have you seen that?
No.
It's a low budget film, but you can't tell it's low budget. You know what I mean? Like it's filmed really well. Special effects and all really good too. But it's on Amazon Prime, and it's about this podcaster who's kind of like got himself in trouble with some things, and people aren't following him anymore, listening to him and stuff. So, and what he does, he reports on like cryptids and stuff like that. Like he checks out haunted places and shit like that. But he gets a letter in the mail about like this weird creature living out in the woods that this guy wants to kill, and like, hey, you want to come out here and watch me capture and kill this beast that's behind my house or whatever? And he's like, okay. And it turns in like this crazy ass fucking it's a monster movie, but also has like some weird Saw type shit going on. It's a weird combination, and there's a lot of humor in it too. So really, really good. It's called All Eyes.
All Eyes. Okay, yeah, I haven't heard of it. I'll have to look into that one as well.
Yeah, I watched that this year, so I guess technically, it's new to me, but it came out last year. But that one's really good, and I also really dug Infinity Pool. Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't. That's one I've been wanting to watch as well, and I have not seen it yet. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, Infinity Pool scored really high for me. That's gonna make my list for this year for sure. Like really good. It hit all the notes I like. Dark sci-fi, horror elements in there and stuff like that. And it's like I don't know, and it's got Mia Goth in there, so that's always cool. She's a great actress, but
Nice.
plays a super annoying part in this one. Holy shit! Like man, she's yeah. But yeah, really good. Brandon Cronenberg has a like cool vision, just like his dad, but he's
Sure.
doing his own thing. So
That's cool.
yeah, Infinity Pool. We definitely want to check that one out. Do you have can you give away any more like future plans with Fright-Rags design wise or anything like that? Like what might be coming in the future?
Yeah, so like I said, we've got Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the 2003, the 20th anniversary of that film coming out next month. If all goes to plan, we're working on a collection for True Romance, which is also celebrating
Oh,
its anniversary 30th this year. So we're doing that. Um, we just recently re-signed Ghostbusters, which I'm really happy about because we could do a whole bunch of new stuff with that. So we'd be starting out with some reprints of older shirts that we haven't been able to put out for a while because we haven't had the license for a couple of years. So we're going to be putting those out. We've got the Prowler coming up, City of Living Dead. Those came out really good. We're doing more hats this summer. We're celebrating Jaws 3D. So we've got, because that's the 40th anniversary of that. So we're doing some things for that movie. And we're doing the Beyond, which will be the first time for us, which I can't wait.
nice. Hmm.
Yeah, we've got a ton of stuff coming up.
Yeah, you sold me at a True Romance, man. I love that fucking movie.
Yeah, that is a great film. I'm looking forward to working with that one as well.
Yeah, that and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'm definitely gonna be buying stuff. I told myself I'm trying to take a break from buying stuff or whatever, but that never works out that long, you know.
Yeah, I hear you. I do the same thing with like other stuff. Like, I play guitar, so I'm always buying stuff with guitar stuff, and I always tell myself, all right, that's it for a while. And then I see something like, oh man, I gotta get that. So, and I do that with other things too. It's just, oh well, But hey, it makes us happy, right?
It does, and I'm also a fellow guitar player. I was in a band for over 15, 16 years of my life, and as I'm talking right now, I'm sitting next to like two full stacks and like three guitars and all my pedal board and everything when I'm like recording or something. So
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I have my guitars. Normally I have them hanging right in here in this room, but I take them down during the winter months because it just gets too dry in here.
hmm
So I put them in the cases with some humidifying packs, and then now that it's nice enough out, I can probably I have a hydrometer in here to make sure the humidity is going to be okay enough to keep them out. But yeah, I've got right now I've got a deluxe reverb tone master, and I have a head rush. I just got the new head rush prime with the speaker, so I've kind of like I'm balancing both worlds. I mean, granted, I know the tone masters is technically digital, but I mean I've got the regular amp with as a pedal platform and that type of thing, but then I've got full modeling too, so I'm just kind of messing around. It's I used to have a Marshall JCM 800 full stack. It was a fifth
nice.
spot, and as great as that is, it's like, where are you playing that? It's just too loud. So to me, it's like I like being able to have stuff that I can play here in the house, and if I do end up playing out, which I do with my brother's band once in a while, I have enough to bring with me and still play loud enough, but not have it, like my Marshall, I could keep it on like two, and that's not doing anything. It's like taking
hmm
a Ferrari to the grocery store. You know what I mean? It's like you got to open that thing up. That's what
Right, right.
and you can't really do that in most places. So I'm just being more and more, conservative these days. But it's still fun, as long as it's fun to play and you get the tones you want, that's all that matters.
Yeah, when it comes to loudness or whatever, we weren't like when we did our touring and all that stuff, I would bring my whole rig. We're a three piece, and
Mm.
I would bring the whole fucking rig with me. So I got like two full stacks. It don't matter where we're at, as long as I can fit that shit on stage, I'm bringing it. So I
Amazing.
I, I never like turn to max. I've never been over like 5 or 6 with these amps. I have two PV triple X 212 combos. They're both like 120 watts a piece, and I got those on top of two Fender Metalhead 412 cabs, and they're like I think they're rated almost 500 watts a piece. So
Oh,
I got a lot of air moving,
yeah, man, that's quite a rig. I mean, it's funny because my brothers and I have been playing, and like my brother has a band. It's a more blues centric that I play in. Like I sit in here and there. Sometimes he does solo, sometimes it's me, him, a drummer, and a bass player. Sometimes it's just us three. But both my brothers, the one that has the band, he also plays bass, and he was the bassist in our band. It was just us three as well, because my other brother plays drums and I play guitar, and my brother and I sing. So it's funny, we're a three piece as well, and we've been getting together again more frequently just to kind of jam and stuff. So it's funny you're in the same situation.
What's the name of the band?
Our band is called 10th Ward. It's because where we grew up downtown, where our old house, where we originally grew up, was called the 10th Ward. So that's why we're called that.
hmm
What about you guys?
Well, my band's inactive right now. They're no longer a thing, but we were called Tripping the Mechanism. and
Oh,
we're like doomy, sludgy, kind of some black metal elements. We're a lot of things people would call us. Like we just make heavy music. We've been called like the black metal Melvins and stuff, which I think that was a cool
oh, that's
compliment.
that's cool. I would love that. Yeah, that's a great compliment.
I'll send you over our Bandcamp or stuff, or wherever you can find our music at. There's some like free stuff too. You can just listen to us. I don't have to buy anything, so you can check us out if you're into that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'd love to check it out. Sure.
And now what I do now, I've been working on some like dark John Carpenter-ish like synth stuff. I've been getting into keyboards. Like I have a little Akai mini MIDI keyboard or whatever. I've been using that for like the past couple of years now. And I got a project called Abraxas Horn, which is just me, and I released my first album on that project last year. And just like some really weird dark synthy stuff. If you dig that stuff, I don't
Oh,
know.
that's cool. No, I do, and again, it's funny you mentioned that. I used to play around. I have a keyboard as well that I haven't played with it in quite some time, but I used to do a lot of just instrumental stuff when I was younger and record. Like when I figured out how to record on my computer, and this was like 3 years ago, and trying to like figure out like how to get the sounds in there, and it was a lot of fun. And I actually want to get back to doing more of it. I haven't done it in years, but I mean I would love to get back to doing that because it's just it's fun to have something different that's not guitar related, or like just to do something that gets you out of the box, because I mean
Mhm.
I always you get in that rut. I get in that rut all the time. I'm playing the same stuff. I mean, I'm in that kind of rut right now where I just feel like anything I play sounds like crap, and I'm just like,
Mhm.
like I can't. I don't know. You go through it here and there, and it's fun to just switch over to something else for a little bit to refresh.
It really is. And like when you get into the keyboard synthy world or whatever, there's so many options, so many sounds. Like you're just like in a giant mecca fucking like a candy store, fucking cool sounds. Like I don't know what to choose. Like I can take this sound and build it and make it 1,000 different ways. Like there's so many cool things to do.
Yep. Yep. It's cool when you get on that trip. Even like sometimes I was actually jamming a little bit earlier, and I was just going in all my pedals and just messing around and trying to get some weird tones and stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is great. Like because it was something that was totally different, because I had this I got the new Strymon Cloudburst, which is this cool reverb ambient thing, and I was kind of messing with that, and you get some really wacky stuff out of there if you push it. And I'm like, that's just I don't know. It's just fun. It's just fun to try to spark your creativity in different ways.
Oh yeah, totally. Like yeah, I got a shit ton of pedals myself. I got some cool delays. I mostly fuck around with this company called Blackhawk Amps. I don't know if you ever heard of them. They're out of Oregon, but they make custom amps and pedals. It's really one guy that does it, Brooks Blackhawk. But anyways, he makes the nastiest like distortion and fuzz pedals ever. Like they're so heavy and nasty sounding. And the one I have that I use primary is called the Uruk Hai, which from Lord of the
Oh
Rings.
yeah,
To
Lord of
like,
the Rings. Yep.
yeah. So man, there's so many different like tonal things I can get out of this one pedal. Like it's insane, and I'm tuning down to I think G right now. So like it's just like yeah, you hit one note, it's like it's like straight growling and stuff. It's so nasty, but yeah, I have also like I said, I have delays and choruses and all that stuff too. But man, I'm a sucker for like this heavy, nasty fucking distortion or fuzz.
Have you I know it's not quite the same, but have you messed around with the Digitech drop pedal?
I didn't have a Digitech, but I did have one called a Morpheus. I don't know if you ever heard of Morpheus drop tune pedals before.
No, no, I actually just got, I haven't heard of that one. I just got a drop because my brother, when I play in his band, likes to play in different keys, and sometimes like he does a lot of slide and open D. So I instead of having a guitar tune to D, like instead of using my capo all the time or whatever, like I just have it where I could just drop it down with a pedal, and it's perfect. Because then I can play in the open E position, but it's D, and it's just so much easier.
Hmm.
But I mean, I'll use a capo for other keys and other things, but it just for like a whole set and for mostly in D, it's like, all right, I don't want to have to deal, because I was tuning my guitar down to D, but I was using custom shop Telly, and the high E kept slipping out of the nut, and it was just too loose, and I was like, I got to
Hmm.
figure this out. So I like looked into these pedals and got one. I'm like, oh, that works. I don't use it a ton, but it does come in handy.
Yeah, I've used one before. Let's say I used a Morpheus one, but I know when I was using that, like I could hear like there's like a a digital sound to it. You know what I mean? Like it didn't sound natural enough to me, so I quit fucking around with that. And it was a good pedal if you know how to use it, but it was getting more like it was too digitally for me. You know?
Yeah, you can definitely tell a difference if you're really listening to it, but luckily I've played out with it and with the other sounds in the room and other people playing, like you basically don't tell, and I can't hear there's really hardly any latency there, in terms of like the switch over, like obviously if I'm playing by myself in a room, I can kind of hear the notes I'm playing and hear it come out of the speaker, and they're different, and that's weird. But
Hmm.
and again, it's only for certain things. Like I probably wouldn't make it a habit of using it on a lot of stuff that I do. This was just out of necessity, where I'm like, God, this is easy enough to do, and it's serving the purpose. And we're just sitting there playing for like two people anyway, so who cares?
Yeah.
So whatever.
Yeah, it makes it totally easy to tune down though. Like you don't just
Yeah.
sit there and fucking you just it's a cool device, and I think they revise it every year, so it probably sounds better than when I used back when I used that. I started taking more guitars with me. Just have one because we played in two different tunings. I think at that time, one was like Dad Fad tuning, and the
Oh
other
yeah.
one was like I want to say it was like C or something. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I would just have two guitars. I just throw the other one up. That way I'm not sitting there tuning or anything like that and messing up my intonation. So,
Yeah, it's and it also, hey, it's an excuse for us to buy new guitars, right? Because hey, you need one in Open G, and you also need one in all. It's like
yeah.
it's that eternal, like, well, I don't have a specific guitar that does that one thing that I'll only do one time in my life, but I should probably buy the guitar so I have it.
Yeah, I
Um,
haven't
and
bought a
it's
guitar in like I would say a good 6 or 7 years. My last guitar I bought was another BC Rich, but it was a Warlock, and it was a special edition Warlock that had a little bit the scale was a little bit longer. So with that guitar there, and it had like a special bridge on there, so I can tune even deeper with that one without it going out of fucking it up and all that stuff. So that's the one I'm primary using right now if I'm doing like recording stuff or whatever, just jamming out in the house.
so when I first started playing guitar in the mid '90s, I had an Area Pro 2, and I mean I played a little bit when I was real little, but that was my first time really getting into it. And in '96, I bought a Gibson Nighthawk, which is kind of like almost like a Les Paul, but a thin style.
Hmm.
And then in '99, I bought a Strat Plus Deluxe. So I had those two guitars from 1999 until 2000. So like, I mean, that's like 20 years, right? Like that's 20.
Right.
And I still have those guitars, but in the 3 years since then, I've bought 8 or 9 guitars.
Wow.
Like
Nice.
honestly, I went really insane, like because I sold a lot of stuff off. I sold a lot of other old gear off, and I was just and I had these like other collectibles that I didn't need anymore, so I sold them. But I just started getting back heavily into it because of COVID. And I know the guitar industry boomed during COVID. I've
Mhm.
always been playing, but like I was just playing a lot more, and I was getting more into like YouTube and watching reviews and other things. And I was like, I've never had a Les Paul, let's get a Les Paul. I've never had a Tele, let's get a Tele. Like I've never had this, let's get it. And dude, I went crazy. And I mean, thank God my wife is still with me. Every once in a while, like even dude, a couple weeks ago, I ended up buying a Silver Sky because I really do like those guitars, and I like a Strat. I mean, I love a lot of different guitars, but I if I was going to collect just one style of guitar, I could collect Strats all day. And
Mhm.
I played one, and I really liked the feel and the sound of it. I thought it was different than my other Strats, and I do like John Mayer, but at the same time, I just love that style guitar, and they sound great. I love the pickups, so I ended up getting a basically brand new guitar, but for a used price. But yeah, it came in the mail, and my wife's just shaking her head, and I'm just like, sorry, like but I gotta slow it down. I mean, it's just ridiculous at this point. I can't, I have plenty of everything, so I'm not needing anything. It's always just a want and desire, and then I just end up doing it, and I'm like, ugh, what am I doing to myself?
Bro, I totally feel that. Like right now for me, that's pedals. Like I'm trying to calm down on that stuff. Like I said, like I see a new pedal out there I want. I'm like, God damn it, it's how much? I'm like, oh well, I could maybe get that. Let's see. And like then I get the damn thing and I use it for like a couple times, and I'm back to my older pedals I've been using.
Yeah, I've definitely started amassing some pedals too, and I mean I'm slower than I have been with the guitars, but still I probably have, like, again, pre 2020, I think I had maybe 3 pedals, and now I have probably 12. So it's like, yeah, I definitely bought a bunch, maybe a little bit less than that. I'm kind of looking around here with looking at them. But the one thing I did sell, I don't necessarily regret, but part of me does, is early on, during all this buying and selling, I did sell my original deluxe Memory Man that I had. I mean, it's the original like plug-in
Oh.
all one,
Hmm.
but I had it for years and I loved it, but something was wonky on it. I had to send it back to them. One of the switches went, I don't know, remember what it was. This was like 20 plus years ago. And I sent it back to them and they fixed it and sent it back to me. And for whatever reason, it was never quite the same after that. So I didn't take to it as much. So I ended up selling it, a couple of years ago, and I got a really good price for it. I mean, I got way more than well, not way more, maybe almost double what I paid for it, which is pretty awesome. Almost double, maybe 50% more. But, um, I tend to hold on to things. I don't tend to sell like a lot of stuff. I mean, the gear I ended up selling was just stuff that I really didn't need anyway that I had accumulated over the years. But there's most of the time, especially guitars, I end up just holding on to. So it's like I got to be careful.
Yeah, it's definitely an addiction and stuff. And kind of right now, what I'm, besides doing like the synth keyboard stuff, I'm big into like virtual reality stuff. Like when it comes to like PlayStation VR 2, so I done dropped a bunch of money on that, and because the horror games like the new Resident Evil in virtual reality is fucking amazing.
Yeah, my son's got an Oculus and he's been getting into certain things, and I have not even attempted, because I know if I go down that rabbit hole, like it's over and then I'm not getting anything done. So I'm like, I kind of hold myself back. I mean, look, I mean, it's, if it's something I really want to try out, I would. And it's not that I don't, it's just I'm not drawn to it, so I'm not gonna. And then I'm like, I don't want to even get tempted. You know what I mean? It's almost like, I'm good. If I start really looking into it, I know where my mind goes, and it's next thing you know, boxes will just be flooding our porch, and my wife's gonna be like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I mean, it's fine. I mean, it's she's very supportive, but I just don't need more stuff. I actually, between guitars and I also I love whiskey, so I collect that quite a bit, and I've been trying to like you know, slow that down because you can only have so much. I mean, it's just it's endless. It's just like anything, new stuff's coming out all the time. It's always exclusive, and it's like
Right.
I don't go chasing it really. To be honest, I'm not like out there like camping out. I'm not paying crazy secondary prices, but if I can get some, a lot of the stuff I like is readily available anyway. Like I love some of the other stuff, but like I'm not gonna sit there and like camp out overnight to get something. It's just crazy to me. Like a bottle of whiskey, it's like whatever. Um,
Hmm.
but I mean, I have a movie theater room, so I've gone crazy with the equipment there, and now I'm looking at upgrading and switching stuff out. So now you go on the rabbit hole of all these other things. I'm like, oh,
Oh yeah.
so much, so much.
It is so much shit to do in like so little time, like we
I
keep
know.
getting older so much faster. I'm like, God damn it.
It's true. It's so true.
Yeah. Well, Ben, this has been fucking great talking with you, man. We should definitely do this again. Maybe deep dive on something down the line, some weird movie we both like. That'd be
Oh
cool.
yeah, man, that'd be great. It was fun hanging out with you and chatting. It was good.
Oh yeah. And chat, music, and horror, that's always like a plus in my book. So
Oh yeah, yep. Same here.
excellent, Ben. Well, I hope you have a good rest of your weekend, man. And we'll talk soon.
Sounds good, man. Take care.
Take care.
Thanks.